Following heavy criticism towards the IMF program from the government opposition and the National People's Power, President Ranil Wickremesinghe announced a decision to convene a meeting with leaders of selected political parties. The meeting was aimed towards discussing proposals put forth by the IMF, which dispatched a delegation to Sri Lanka to conduct the second review of the extended fund facility. Following the successful completion of the second review, the IMF is to disburse its third tranche amounting to around $330 million. However, in a letter addressed to the President's Secretary yesterday, the Opposition Leader's Secretary notified that Opposition Leader Sajith Premadasa declined the invitation extended by President Wickremesinghe. Similarly, the National People's Power also declined the invitation to participate in the meeting. However, TNA leader S. Sridharan confirmed that the Tamil National Alliance would accept the President's invitation. The meeting convened at the Presidential Secretariat today. No representatives from the SJB nor the NPP were present at the meeting. The discussion was attended by Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena, State Ministers of Finance Shehant Semasinghe and Ranjit Siembala-Pittiya, Chief of Presidential Staff Sagala Ratnayaka, Secretary to the President Saman Ekanayaka, Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe, and Secretary to the Ministry of Finance Mahinda Siriwardana. Parliamentarian of the TNA, M.A. Sumanthiran, was the only representative from the opposition.
The President had invited the opposition party leaders for a discussion on the IMF program. I was the only member of the opposition present today. I raised number of concerns with regard to the IMF program that is being implemented. Apparently, there will be another meeting directly with the IMF. Primarily, the concern that I raised was that there is a lack of transparency with regard to these recommendations that the IMF has made, that there are no published technical assistance reports of the IMF. Those are the analytical basis as to why they make some of those recommendations. With regard to revenue increase, I raised as example the question as to why withholding tax rate was not increased. Similarly, number of other issues, particularly prior action that was identified, highlighted 15 of those that have not been done at all to date, which ought to have been completed by February 2024. And the government's response was that in discussion with the IMF, they have got extensions of time. But most importantly, the issues are with regard to these technical assistance reports that are given by the IMF to the government. IMF's policy is that they can publish it only with the consent of the government. And I asked the government whether they can give consent to the IMF to publish it, and the President and the ministers agreed that those reports can be given to us. It is only after receiving those technical assistance reports we can then decide whether this program can be supported or not.
Following the discussion, State Minister of Finance Shehant Semasinghe disclosed details of the proceedings of the meeting during a media briefing.
Dr.
Harsha De Silva of the SJB requested for information pertaining to discussions held with bondholders. We must clearly state that the government is unable to disclose such sensitive information without a final agreement. Financial advisors representing the government and bondholders are currently discussing the matter. Disclosing such sensitive information of the financial market prior to arriving at a final decision will benefit several parties on the one hand and will be disadvantageous to another set of parties on the other. The President agreed to disclose information which is not sensitive. The President also agreed to provide another change for the opposition to have a discussion with the IMF delegation according to their requirements. The President and the government will not object if the opposition presents an acceptable proposal which the IMF would be ready to accept. Dr. Harsha De Silva's name was mentioned in the list of attendees. We believe it would have been productive if he joined as the chairman of the Committee on Public Finance rather than a party representative. However, he declined the opportunity.